Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal 125 based on novel. So let's start. Outside the demon spirit land at the gate to the East Demon Spirit Sea, it was completely dark. There were specks of light in the distance lighting up part of the area. Just at this moment, a ray of light arrived from the void at a speed no cultivator or spell could achieve. There was only one word to describe this speed, and that was descending. Descending has already broken the limit of speed. It can even be said that it can no longer be described with words. Anywhere in the universe, with but a thought, it can descend. The red cloud descends from space. It comes from the void, and no knows where it originated. The moment this red light descended, an aura that would make all life in the universe tremble began to spread. On planet Tianyun, the All-Seer had his eyes closed and was preparing for the plan in 200 years. At this moment, he suddenly opened his eyes, and they revealed a mysterious light as he looked into space. His expression slightly changed and then his hand formed a seal. After calculating for a while, he frowned and muttered, "Divine retribution has descended. With the interference of the heaven's might, I can't clearly calculate everything. But I was able to calculate that the divine retribution descended on the demon spirit land and has something to do with my planet Tianyun. Strange. On planet Dalu in the Dalu sword sect, Sword Saint Lin Tianhu was standing next to a giant pill furnace, and his eyes were glowing. This fundamental good luck pill still requires a few auxiliary pills. Just at this moment, his expression suddenly changed. He took one step before completely disappearing and reappearing in space above the planet. He looked at the red light with surprise in his eyes. Divine retribution. He frowned and showed a look of uncertainty on his face. After carefully watching the light disappear, he muttered to himself, "The divine retribution is descending on the demon spirit land. Not good. Could it be that something happened to greed?" Ling Tianho's eyebrows were locked. At the same time at a planet very far from the planet Tianyun. From the outside, this planet looked to be covered in blood. This was a blood planet. There was a blood pavilion on the blood planet, and a red-haired and red-eyebrowed man was sitting inside it. He looked to be about 40 years old and he was silently cultivating. He suddenly opened his eyes and a blood-colored light poured out of them. He didn't raise his head but silently experienced the shockwave created when the heavens might passed by. After a long time, he closed his eyes. Divine retribution descended on the demon spirit land. I wonder how that child Shishua is doing. Not only those three, but many of the old monsters noticed the divine retribution when it descended. Nothing could stop the red light from descending. Although the gate at the East Demon Spirit Sea wasn't open, the red light still managed to pierce through it. On the square in the Imperial City in the Sky Demon Country, Wang Lin was silently floating there. After the drum rang for the 15th time, the domain inside his body started going through a metamorphosis at an unimaginable speed. The ascendant stage requires one to have enough celestial spiritual energy and their Tao heart to be complete. Once both conditions have been achieved, they will fuse, and this fusion is ascendant. This is the legendary facing one's Tao. This fusion is a collision of one's Tao heart and celestial spiritual energy. The collision of the body and soul, an evolution from a human to a celestial. This is the biggest death trial of reaching the ascendant stage. Either this collision succeeds and one becomes an ascendant cultivator, or it fails and they die. There is no other outcome. A trial of death. To seek Tao, one must face trials of death. Even those who cultivate a variant path can't avoid this. Unless one stays at the peak of the late stage of soul transformation and never takes that step forward. Wang Lin's Tao heart rang the drum for the 15th time and released all of the sadness within. His Tao heart was going through a rapid metamorphosis toward completion. Everyone around the square was silently pondering. In just one day, Wang Lin had made them experience too many incredible things, so his figure was now engraved in all their heart. Just at this moment, the lightning and thunder disappeared from the sky and a fiery redness appeared. From a distance, this red was boundless and seemed to cover the entire sky. The expression of the young man on the boat suddenly changed. Then he let out a bitter laugh and said, "I seem to have forgotten about this matter, but this little guy is a cultivator. Back then I spent a long time in the Dragon Lake and had many elders help me. In the end, with the help of the demon drum and several years of time, I was able to hide the defying aura and didn't cause a divine retribution. However, this is a test for this child. If he can resist this divine retribution, he won't be affected by the heavens anymore after he reaches the ascendant stage. And from the looks of it, this divine retribution's power isn't that great." Everyone in Sky Demon City noticed the change in the sky, and the people at the square were completely startled by this. The red light in the sky quickly condensed into a large number of red clouds. These red clouds looked heavy as they floated over the imperial city. As Wang Lin stood behind the demon drum, he looked at the sky and let out a deep breath. The heavens Tao can't stop my Tao heart, but it can send punishment to erase my existence. This is divine retribution. I once saw divine retribution back in Chilean City in the Sea of Devils. Compared to that time, this is much more powerful. The red clouds gathered, and after an instant, red lightning began to gather. If the red lightning didn't fall or release an aura, this scene would be extremely beautiful. The young man on the boat looked at the bolt of lightning before letting out a sigh of relief and softly saying, "There are only two kinds of divine retribution that appear in the shape of a lightning bolt. It can't possibly be the legendary second one, so I'm 90% sure it is the first one, the simplest of them all. This little guy Wang Lin's luck is pretty good." Wang Lin looked at the sky. At this moment, he ignored everything else and only focused on the red lightning in the sky. "I have had some encounters with divine retribution in my 700 years of cultivation. I attracted divine retribution when I refined the restriction flag. I changed Li Muwen's fate and caused the heaven's messenger to descend. This time I kept my lingering feelings and decided to defy the heavens while continuing to cultivate, and this also attracted divine retribution." Wang Lin's eyes were calm, but they were also filled with determination. The red clouds in the sky suddenly began to move and condense together like crazy. The sky right now was like a red sea, and all of the waves were rushing toward the center. In the blink of an eye, the red lightning at the center started shining brightly, lighting up the heavens and earth. Shortly after, waves of roars that seemed to come from primordial beasts came from the red lightning. Then a series of rumbles came from the earth and mixed together with the roars coming from the sky. At this moment, the red lightning descended. It was like a meteor that suddenly fell from the sky and crashed down upon Wang Lin. A crazy amount of killing intent suddenly appeared. This was the killing intent of the heavens. The heavens' killing intent. Sky Demon City, which was currently experiencing summer, experienced snow. The snowflakes fell from the sky, and every single snowflake contained the killing intent of the heavens. The red lightning came crashing down in this snow. There was only one sound left in this world, and that was the rumbling that represented the wrath of the heavens. There was only one color left in this world, and that was the blood red of the divine retribution lightning. There was only one killing intent left in this world, and that was the heavens' killing intent, which was more powerful than the killing intent one would obtain after slaughtering billions of people. The heavens wanted to kill someone. Wang Lin suddenly opened his eyes, and they released a bright glow as more than 3,700 life seals suddenly gathered around his body. At the same time, he slapped his bag of holding, causing the restriction flag to appear. With one shake, a large amount of black gas appeared around his body, and there were countless restrictions flashing inside the black gas. No matter how angry the heavens are, they can't erase my existence. As Wang Lin laughed, he pointed at the red lightning in the sky. At this moment, Wang Lin was as graceful as the sun and moon, his hair and clothes fluttered in the wind, and his eyes revealed an unyielding aura. At this comment, he was an indomitable man. With one point of his finger, the black gas around him charged into the sky. The countless restrictions inside the black gas formed a black tornado that welcomed the divine retribution. The red lightning descended and collided with the black tornado. At this moment, an unimaginable explosion echoed and rumbled across the land. The ears of countless people in Sky Demon City bled and countless people were knocked out due to the shock. The spectators around the square suffered the same fate. Although the demon generals were better off, Their demonic spiritual energy cycled through their bodies without their control. It was as if their bodies would collapse under this sound if they didn't do this. Only the commander-in-chiefs calmly looked at the divine retribution. The black tornado made of countless restrictions clashed with the red lightning without any hesitation. At this moment, it was as if a giant hand had just crushed the black tornado, causing it to collapse. The red lightning pierced through it and sliced it in half like a sharp sword. The tornado collapsed and the restrictions all shattered into nothingness. The heavens want to kill me, but I want to destroy the heavens. Wang Lin's body gave off an astonishing aura. At the moment the red lightning broke the restrictions, he suddenly lifted his finger and used the finger of death. This wasn't just one finger of death, but 100. Wang Lin's left hand touched his bag of holding and a large amount of celestial jades poured out, forming a small hill under his feet. Wang Lin was standing on top of the small hill with the demon drum behind his back. As he looked up at the sky, a large amount of celestial spiritual energy entered his body through his feet. The 100 fingers of death fused into one, transforming into a ray of black light more than 30 feet long, and charged out directly at the red lightning. I dare to defy the heavens to continue to cultivate, and keeping my lingering feeling means I wish to fight against heavens. Divine retribution, even if you can destroy my body, you can't destroy my Tao heart. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and at this moment, the light from his eyes pierced through the red lightning and directly entered the red clouds. An even louder thunder echoed across the sky as if it was answering Wang Lin's Tao. The 100 fingers of death created a ray of death as they charged through the sky and collided with the red lightning. Then an even louder thunder echoed across the sky. At this moment, the entire sky trembled as if it was about to be flipped upside down. The finger of death absorbs life force and converts it into destruction. At the moment the finger of death collided with the red lightning, it had absorbed a lot of life, but it was still no match for the divine retribution lightning. Under the force of the red lightning, the black light from the finger of death rapidly dissipated until it was completely gone. The red lightning continued descending, but its color was a bit dimmer than before. Wang Lin's hair flowed in the wind as he looked at the red lightning with an unyielding gaze. He decided to simply remove all of the life seals that were protecting him and turn them into more than 3,700 strands of slaughter energy. His right hand pointed at the sky and the slaughter energy gathered at his hand. More than 3,700 strands of slaughter energy rushed out like a storm. As Wang Lin stood inside this storm, his eyes revealed powerful killing intent. Kill. With one shout, the slaughter energy in his hand quickly condensed. From more than 3,700 strands into one, it turned into a black dragon, a dragon of slaughter. Wang Lin's eyes turned red. Not only did he have killing intent, he also had a heart of slaughter. He wasn't the type of person to have killing intent toward the heavens, but this was enough to make him a genius of the generation. A true genius. Wang Lin had a personality that was willing to do whatever was needed. It didn't matter if you were the heavens or the heavens Tao. If you wanted to kill him, then he'd kill you no matter who you are. With his heart of slaughter and his killing intent, the dragon formed by the slaughter energy seemed to gain a life of its own. This dragon represented Wang Lin's intent to defy the heavens. Slaughter. The dragon let out a roar and directly went to devour the red lightning. Even the divine retribution of the heavens seemed to dim at the moment it was devoured by the dragon. But divine retribution was punishment from the heavens, and it carried the killing intent of the heavens themselves. Although the slaughter dragon was strong, it still wasn't enough. The dragon collapsed, but its collapse caused the red lightning to dim even more and its size to shrink down. The roar of the dragon was still echoing in the sky as the red lightning pierced through the dragon and charged directly at Wang Lin. At the moment the red lightning descended, Wang Lin's hair began to flutter in a strange way, and a strange, black light appeared on his right index finger. Demonic finger. The red light in Wang Lin's eyes disappeared and was replaced by a light that could only exist in the eyes of a demon. All of the celestial spiritual energy in his body moved like crazy as it turned into demonic spiritual energy. At this moment, the small hill of jades below Wang Lin's feet, which was milky white before, now started to turn black as if black ink was being poured over it. In the blink of an eye, the entire small pile of celestial jades turned completely black. All of the celestial spiritual energy inside was completely changed into demonic spiritual energy. The demonic finger looked completely different from before. Even if Sichu Nan were to come here personally and use the demonic finger, it wouldn't be much stronger than the one Wang Lin was using right now. This was because Wang Lin didn't only convert the celestial spiritual energy in his body but also all of the celestial spiritual energy in the small hill of celestial jades below his feet into an endless amount of demonic spiritual energy. What was inside the black light at the tip of his finger wasn't only demonic spiritual energy but also his Tao. It didn't matter if it was the celestial Tao or demonic Tao, this contained the defying nature Wang Lin had toward the heavens in his heart. The black light also contained strong attachment, Wang Lin's will to keep his lingering feelings for Li Muwen, and his courage to defy the heavens. It also contained the determination and unyielding nature from when he was a mortal who experienced many disasters and went through countless dangers as he walked down his own path in cultivation. This finger moved everyone's hearts. The black light rushed at the red light. At this moment, it was as if the world had reverted to the time of primordial chaos. The red was the sky and the black was the earth. The red represented divine retribution, and the black represented heaven-defying intent. The collision of red and black was heaven-shaking, and at this moment, the entire Sky Demon City trembled. The earthquake traveled to the surrounding mountains and plains as well. Sounds of explosions came from the ground as if there were countless bombs going off underground. An unimaginable force was created from these explosions, causing the entire square to completely collapse. All of the surrounding stands collapsed as well, sending countless people flying. All of the demon generals quickly retreated as if they would be caught up in this if they were one step too late. All of the commander-in-chief's expressions changed and they retreated, except for the Heaven Commander-in-Chief. He was the closest, and he saw everything before letting out a sigh. Then he touched his bag of holding and took out a jade bottle. He gave the jade bottle a meaningful look before throwing it at Wang Lin and leaving. In the sky above Wang Lin, the red and black cancelled each other out. With the power of the restriction flag, 100 fingers of death, more than 3,700 slaughter dragons filled with Wang Lin's heart of slaughter, and countless celestial jades converted into demonic spiritual energy to create the most powerful demonic finger Wang Lin has ever created. The red light was finally neutralized after all these spells were fused. The moment the red light disappeared, the ground stopped shaking and everything seemed to start returning to normal. But at this moment, the panic from the countless people in Sky Demon City created a depressing atmosphere that surrounded the entire city. At the moment the red lightning disappeared, Wang Lin's face was extremely pale. He caught the jade bottle the Heaven Commander-in-Chief gave him. There was one pill inside the bottle, but he didn't consume it. He looked up at the sky with a serious expression. Wang Lin didn't believe that the heavens would only send one bolt of divine retribution lightning when it wanted to kill someone. The young man on the boat also looked at the sky with a serious expression. There was a trace of shock on his face. The red cloud didn't dissipate, but there was no violent reaction, as if everything was calming down. But this calmness created an invisible pressure that enveloped the heavens and earth. This is. The young man's expression changed greatly. He could no longer keep the composure he had before, and he took a step and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was in the sky above the imperial city. When he came so close to the divine retribution cloud, his scalp couldn't help but go numb. This time it seems things have gotten out of hand. The young man bitterly smiled. Almost at the moment he appeared, his right hand reached out toward Wang Lin. He was about to bring Wang Lin out of the imperial city to go through the divine retribution. If the divine retribution was what he first thought it was, then he wouldn't be this alarmed, but right now this divine retribution was giving him a bad feeling. Just as he was about to reach out, he suddenly stopped before looking up at the sky. He bitterly smiled and thought, since this little guy has been locked onto by the divine retribution, I don't have the ability to move him. Then the young man took a deep breath and without any hesitation opened his arms. His body flickered as he changed from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, and in an instant turned into 8 people. 8 identical young men quickly moved to the 8 cities around the imperial city and activated a greater teleport spell to instantly move all of the residents away. This spell was extremely difficult. Even for this person, he had to use some secret technique to barely be able to pull it off. Just as he finished doing all of this, the sky suddenly changed. The red cloud in the sky quickly gathered above Sky Demon City. Then a sense of majesty came from the red clouds before they covered the entire city. The young man was in the sky outside of the city, and when he noticed this majesty, his expression changed once more. This is the heaven's might. Without any hesitation, he quickly landed on the ground. He bitterly smiled and said, "The heaven's might has appeared. I wonder if the ancestors will appear." Standing upon the shattered square, Wang Lin looked up at the sky. The unyielding nature in his eyes didn't change at all. The second punishment of the heavens descended. This time the divine retribution appeared in the form of the heaven's might. The heaven's might. What is this so-called heaven's might? The heaven's might is the might of the heavens. When the heaven's might moves, everything is destroyed. When the heaven's might moves, the sky changes color. When the heaven's might moves, no creature is allowed to resist it. You must yield under the heaven's might. Become suppressed below the heavens and give into its might. This is the heaven's might. As the heaven's might descended, a powerful pressure came from the sky. The massive red cloud in the sky descended by 1 inch. This descent of 1 inch caused the already shattered square to explode everywhere. The shockwave created by the explosion didn't even get to spread before being forced into the ground by this pressure. Under the might of the heavens, the shockwave didn't have the qualifications to even kick up dust. Wang Lin only felt his body become heavy as if there were millions of pounds pressing down on top of him. He could hear crisp bursting sounds coming from his body. At this moment, Wang Lin had the illusion that he was being squeezed by the world itself. This was the same feeling from back when he cultivated under the pressure of the spirit vein in the soul refining sect. Back then his cultivation was wasted and he had regressed into a mere mortal. Shortly after, the heaven's might moved once more, and all of the red clouds descended once more. This time the pressure increased even more and all of the palaces around the square collapsed into tiny pieces. This kind of collapse spread like crazy with Wang Lin as the center, and the heavens might slowly descended. In almost an instant, a small portion of the imperial palace began to collapse. Wang Lin's leg didn't move at all, as a powerful, unyielding aura exploded from his body. He raised his head as he looked at the red cloud in the sky and softly said, "I won't give in." Bursts of thunder came from the red cloud as it began to descend once more. 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch. This time it descended 3 inches in a row, and the heavens might came crashing down. The earth made a sound like it couldn't withstand the pressure anymore. All of the buildings in the imperial palace were crushed under this pressure. The imperial city of the Sky Demon country, which stood for countless years, all turned to dust with the exception of the demon drum. At this moment, it was as if the sky had collapsed. This was the heavens' might. One must give in under the might of the heavens. If you don't give in, then you will be crushed to death by the heavens' might. If the heavens want to kill, then you must die. At the moment the imperial city turned into ruins, bursts of anger rushed out from underground. "Dog shit, divine retribution and little scoundrel, you guys dare to destroy my Sky Demon country's capital. Damn you all. You brats deserve to die, and this divine retribution deserves to die even more. Ha ha, divine retribution, good. My ancestor survived through a divine retribution to cultivate. I want to see how much power this divine retribution has." Bursts of angry roars rushed out from underground. Then thunderous rumblings came from below the ground, no weaker than the thunder from the divine retribution. 5 powerful shockwaves charged out from underground. Although the heaven's might was trying to suppress it, this shockwave was still able to force itself 100 feet into the air. 5 white-haired old men with eyes filled with demonic spiritual energy charged out along with the 5 shockwave. Just from looking at them, one could feel the passage of time. Their skinny upper bodies were naked, but those lean bodies gave off an almost primordial aura. The red cloud in the sky churned violently and descended 3 more inches. The ground of the entire capital city shattered, and drops of blood came out from the pores all over Wang Lin's body. There were sounds of his flesh and bones being crushed, and he felt like there were countless large mountains crashing down on top of him. Wang Lin's legs remained straight as the ground beneath him collapsed. His legs sunk deep into the ground until he was knee-deep. The pressure from the heavens might directly entered his soul. It was as if there was an incomparably majestic voice roaring inside his soul. Wang Lin struggled to raise his head. He looked at the sky and didn't say a word. Not only were the 5 old men not unwell under this heaven's might, but they all began laughing like crazy. Each of them managed to fly up and float in the sky under this pressure. Comfortable. No wonder the ancestors said that this heaven's might is dogfart. This pressure is comfortable enough to make me want to curse. Bullshit. When did the ancestors say anything like that? They clearly said that the heaven's Tao is like a naughty girl. If you don't want it to be pressing on top of you, then you just have to push her down and press on top of her. Both of you are speaking nonsense. I have read the records left by the ancestors hundreds of times. How come I never read anything like that? The 5 old men began to quarrel with each other. The heavens might became even angrier, and the red cloud descended 8 more inches. The earth roared, and the entire ground of the imperial city was crushed. Although the shockwave wasn't able to spread on the surface, it spread underground as if there were dragons moving beneath the surface, and this affected almost half of Sky Demon City. The 5 old men suddenly stopped talking. It was as if their bodies had been hit by an invisible hand and swatted to the ground. Wang Lin was at the center of the heaven's might. Crunching sounds came from his body, and he sank down even more. This time less than half of his body was still above the ground. The 5 old men immediately got up, pointed at the sky, and began cursing. I'm the descendant of the ancient demon, which is outside of the laws of the heavens. You are merely a divine retribution and are worth shit. As the 5 of them cursed, they flew up into the sky once more. This time demonic spiritual energy surged out from their bodies. Thick demonic spiritual energy covered the entire Sky Demon City as the 5 of them flew straight at the red clouds. The heavens might shook and the red cloud descended once more. This time it descended 10 feet. At this moment, it was as if a giant hand had slammed down on Sky Demon City, as all of it turned to dust in an instant. Countless cracks appeared on the ground along with the loud rumbling. These cracks were very large, and in the blink of an eye, the earth below Sky Demon City was torn asunder. Wang Lin coughed out a large mouthful of blood, and sounds of things collapsing came from his body. Right now he was completely buried underground, leaving only a deep hole on the ground. The 5 old men that were charging at the red cloud all fell to the ground once more, leaving behind 5 deep holes on the ground. One of the old men in the holes was furious. He climbed out and angrily shouted, "Divine retribution, you ass. You destroyed my Sky Demon City, so I'll fight you to the death." At this moment, Wang Lin could no longer feel anything on the outside. At this moment, he was underground and had lost all feeling in his body. Right now his meridians were broken, and there were signs of his bones shattering into dust. If one doesn't give in when the heavens wants to kill them, there is no path to survival. Wang Lin's eyes were wide open. Even until now his eyes were still filled with an unyielding aura. His body could be crushed and his origin soul could collapse, but his Tao heart will never compromise. As long as there are cultivators that want to defy the heavens and cultivate, they will do everything to avoid the heavens' punishment. A faint voice suddenly echoed inside Wang Lin's mind. The heavens Tao isn't afraid of cultivators hiding, because once they hide, then their heart no longer contains the meaning of defying. What the heavens Tao is really afraid of is those who choose not to avoid but to face it. For those creatures, the heavens will do everything it can to erase them. You aren't the first one, and you won't be the last. When others face ascendant, they either follow the heavens Tao or avoid it, so divine retribution doesn't arrive. Yet you chose to face it, and that caused the divine retribution to descend. The heavens Tao won't allow a third type of heaven-defying cultivation. Countless years ago, when the universe first formed, there was a race that was as old as the heavens Tao. The members of that race had a lot of power. They used that power to form their Tao, and they used that Tao to fight the heavens. Some had amazing spells. With a turn of their hand, they could destroy Tao and use the spells to fight against the heavens. There were also those that walked the path of slaughter. They lived in slaughter and used death to fight against the heavens. They called themselves the Ancient Order. Divine retribution wasn't able to destroy their bodies, and the heaven's might wasn't able to make them yield. They became the first life forms that cultivated while defying the heavens. After countless years, the Ancient Order split apart. Those with extreme power called themselves ancient gods. Those that walked the path of slaughter called themselves ancient devils. Those that controlled powerful spells called themselves ancient demons. They were the second life forms that cultivated while defying the heavens. A faint voice echoed inside Wang Lin's mind. Although Wang Lin's body had already collapsed, his mind was completely calm. Are you an ancient demon? I am an ancient demon. Wang Lin pondered. However, I'm incomplete. When I awakened, I was within the demon drum. I can feel that the demon drum used to belong to me. For countless years, I couldn't move too far from the demon drum, so I used spells to create the dragon lake and taught the people. I can feel that in this demon spirit land, there are 8 other existences like me in the other countries. They all chose the same method as me. They created something similar to the dragon lake and began educating the people. I have communicated with those existences similar to mine in these countless years, but we can never come to a unified decision. Every existence like me wanted to devour the other to make themselves stronger. Perhaps that is the only way for us to be complete. That is why the war between the 9 countries continued for countless years in the demon spirit land. The appearance of you cultivators tips the scale of this never-ending war. This is why you cultivators are allowed to exist in the demon spirit land. Wang Lin sent out a divine sense message. You must have a reason for appearing and telling me all of this. That is right. I can help you repair your body and help you get through this divine retribution. I can also give you power in the Sky Demon country, but you have to do something for me. You have to retrieve the 8 holy relics of the other 8 countries. Wang Lin pondered. Shortly after, he slowly said, I can't be the only heaven-defying cultivator in the countless years the demon spirit land has existed. Wang Lin didn't get to finish speaking when that voice interrupted him with a sigh and slowly said, You aren't the first heaven-defying cultivator, but you are the first mortal to cultivate the path of the ancient god. I can feel the aura of an ancient god. This aura is very faint, but it is very pure. The people of the demon spirit land that were given enlightenment by me can't withstand my power. Their bodies aren't able to withstand my power no matter what. Even if they are strong, it doesn't matter, because I'm of a different race. Although cultivators' bodies are slightly better than the bodies of the people here, they still have their limits. Very few people can withstand my power. You are more suitable than anyone else. That is the reason I chose you. Wang Lin pondered for a long time before he calmly said, Repair my body and give me the power to resist the divine retribution. The voice echoed, As you wish. At this instant, Wang Lin's body, which was deep underground, was immediately surrounded by a vast power. His body recovered at a crazy speed visible to the naked eye. His meridians reconnected and were now even tougher than before. His bones recondensed and completely recovered. In fact, their strength was several times more powerful than before. His flesh and blood recovered in an instant. All of this happened in an extremely short period of time. Celestial spiritual energy moved along Wang Lin's meridians and traveled through his whole body. At the same time, that vast power surrounding his body suddenly shrank and entered his body. On the surface, the 5 old men had just climbed out of their deep holes and were just about to curse once more. However, just at this moment, the 5 of them were startled and all stared at the hole Wang Lin was in. One of the old men's eyes widened and he muttered to himself, Is this the ancestor's aura? It seems to be the ancestor's aura. As Wang Lin's body floated out from the hole, his hair moved without any wind and his eyes were closed, but an unimaginable amount of demonic spiritual energy was spreading out from his body. Wang Lin's body floated into the air under the pressure of the heaven's might. It was as if at this moment, the pressure had no effect on Wang Lin at all. As Wang Lin ascended into the sky, the demonic spiritual energy coming from his body condensed behind him and formed a giant illusion more than 1,000 feet tall. This illusion had 2 horns, gave off a dark aura, and had dark purple skin. The moment it appeared, the red cloud released bursts of fierce roars and thunderous rumbles. It was as if a demon had been born. This video will end here.